All right, what's up, guys? In today's video, we're going to take a look in-depth at some of the attachments in Call of Duty Warzone. We're going to talk about some of the positives that aren't listed on the attachment cards, as well as some of the attachments that have negatives that aren't listed on the attachment card. I did make a post on my community tab asking how many of you guys actually knew about these attachments that have different hidden stats. 90% of you guys that were responded to that actually said you did not know about that. So in today's video, we're talking about the long barrels, the short barrels, and the no stock attachment. Talking about the attachment stats that aren't listed on those attachment cards that actually affect these barrels and the no stock. The no stock actually has 3 positives that aren't listed on the attachment card, and this is probably the reason I think it's the best attachment to use in all of Modern Warfare and Warzone, due to the fact that it has 5 positives, as well as those barrels have 3 negatives which are not listed. So kind of makes using a longer long barrel a little bit worse than I had anticipated, and is definitely factoring in some of my class setups. So if you guys learn anything new in today's video, it does help you guys make a better class setup. You guys want to leave a like, I would very much appreciate it. 95% of you guys that watch the videos have not yet subscribed, so make sure you guys please subscribe to the channel. In today's video, we're going to be focusing on the short barrels, the medium long barrels, and the longest long barrels, and the no stock attachment. We're also going to be focusing this based around the M4 and the GFUEL, because those are the 2 guns in the game that have all 4 of those attachments, which is going to basically allow you to be able to see the biggest difference in using some of these attachments. With that no stock attachment, you guys know you usually get a faster aim down sight time, a faster movement speed. You also get a slightly worse idle sway and a slightly worse recoil. 3 stats that are not listed that are actually affected by that no stock attachment is your strafe speed. When you're aim down sight strafing left to right in a gunfight, if your strafe speed's faster, you're going to move faster. If it's slower, you're obviously going to move slower. With that no stock attachment, you actually get about a 15% faster strafe speed, which is actually a excellent improvement, as well as your hip fire spread is also a little bit better, and your sprint out time is a little bit better. So what you guys will be taking a look at on the screen now is using the GFUEL and also a little clip of the M4. We're going to take a look at the base M4, and we're also going to take a look at the base GFUEL compared to how well they strafe with that no stock attachment. You guys will be able to see when you're strafing from the left all the way to the right across the map. You guys can see with the no stock attachment, you strafe significantly faster, which in my opinion helps you win a lot more gunfights. In my experience trying to figure out the actual percentage, it was anywhere between 15 and 20%, which is excellent. This is definitely something that's going to help counter those long barrels out, which you guys will see in a second. Usually have a slower strafe speed. Along with, you usually run the Merc or the Ranger foregrip, which has a lower strafe speed. The no stock definitely counters those attachments excellently. It also slightly improves your hip fire. In my counting of it, it's usually by about 10%, which is actually pretty good. It's definitely a lot better than the short barrels. You guys will be able to see the video clips on the screen of the before and after of each gun with the no stock attachment. So if you take that hip fire, stack it with that Merc foregrip, they kind of counter each other out. You're going to get a lot better recoil, a lot better hip fire, and your strafe speed is usually going to be a little bit faster because the no stock's a little faster than the Merc foregrip. So it's definitely an excellent attachment. It also slightly improves your sprint out time, which you guys can see the little video clip of. In my experience testing it, it was about 2 frames faster, which depending on what kind of gun you're using is anywhere between 7 and 15%, which is definitely an excellent attachment. Getting a faster sprint out time. Warzone is a game where you run around a lot. Getting a faster sprint out is definitely an excellent improvement. And as far as one of the biggest factors about that no stock attachment that also is not listed, but I don't really know how you'd even describe it, it does change your iron sights. On the Kilo in specific, I found it to be the biggest improvement, which you guys can see on the screen. Basically, it moves your gun forward on your screen, which makes your gun smaller, which allows you to get a better field of view as far as when you're shooting your enemy. If you have a gun that has a clunky iron sight, it's going to make it harder to hit your shots if you can't really see your enemy that well. As far as in the M4, it had did kind of a big difference. The GFUEL not as big a difference, but the Kilo definitely had a big difference. So you guys will be able to see on the screen all 3 of those guns and how the iron sight changes. Once again, in my opinion, this is a positive to get a little bit better iron sight to try and hit your shots better, especially on a gun like the GFUEL, which has some of the best iron sights in the game, is definitely going to play a big factor. So it's also another excellent positive about the no stock attachment. So the best thing about the no stock is there's 3 excellent positives that are not listed on the attachment card. So 5 positives for 2 negatives is definitely, in my opinion, the most underrated attachment to use in the game right now. So the next thing we're taking a look at is those barrels. You have the short barrel, the medium barrel, and the long barrel. You guys know they affect your bullet velocity, they affect your recoil. your aim down sight time, your movement speed, and your range, as well as 3 main factors that are not listed that are affected is once again your hip fire spread, which is probably the biggest factor, your stray speed, and your idle sway just by a little bit. So that stray speed, once again, similar to the no stock, is definitely a big factor for me. If you take an assault rifle, an LMG that has a very low stray speed, you put a long barrel on there, it's definitely going to have a massive effect. As well as your hip fire spread, you guys will see. The first thing I want to talk about is the actual hip fire. Some of these guns are made for rushing people. You have, the M4 is definitely a more aggressive class setup. You guys will be able to see on the screen all the difference between each barrel. We're going to take a look at the short barrel, which is the commando barrel for the M4, the custom Corvus marksman, the M16 barrel, and then for the GFUEL, we're going to have the drifter, the Nexus, and the Angel barrel. As weird it is, these barrels actually had almost an identical difference in the hip fire. The longest long barrel, which is the Angel and the M16, was about 35% worse, which is definitely a pretty big negative. The only way to kind of get it to counter back is stacking like no stock with that Merc foregrip. The mid barrels, which is the Nexus and the custom Corvus marksman, were about 30% worse, so just almost as bad, slightly better. And as far as those short barrels, not that big of an improvement, only about 3% better, which is not that big of a difference, but definitely an excellent improvement if you're trying to get a class setup for the GFUEL, getting the best SMG class setup possible. But once again, that stat's not listed. To get a 35% worse hip fire spread, while also getting a worse idle sway and stray speed, is definitely going to factor in sometimes to picking which class setup you're going to be using and which attachments you're going to be stacking together with that Archangel barrel. As far as the overall stray speed, once again, almost identical. The biggest factor here is those short barrels are going to get about a 5 to 6% faster stray speed, which on a gun like the GFUEL, which is a little bit on the faster end for the stray speed, it's going to take it from AR level stray speed all the way up to SMG, which is an excellent attachment. As far as that Nexus, that custom Corvus marksman barrel, stray speed on both is about 8% slower, which you guys will be able to see once again video clips on the screen of me showcasing the base gun versus with these long barrels on there. 8% slower is not that big of a deal, but the reason, the factor for me and what makes it the best class setup, to try and find the best class setup, is if you stack both those barrels with that commando foregrip, you're only getting a little bit worse stray speed. But if you stack those barrels with the Ranger or the Merc foregrip, which both affect your stray speed, you're now going from about 8% slower to about 20% slower stray speed, which is now going to take you from AR level to below LMG level stray speed, which is you're basically not going to be moving at all when you're aimed down sight strafing. So definitely a big negative. As far as the longest long barrels, you have the M16 and the Archangel barrel. They're about 11 and 12% worse, which when you're trying to compare that to like the Merc and the Ranger, when I tested it on the GFUEL, the Merc foregrip was about 9% slower, which is about those mid-level barrels. And the Ranger foregrip was about 11% slower, which is once again about those long barrels. So definitely a big factor as far as the mobility category. So definitely, in my opinion, one of the biggest factors in what makes a gun more mobile. If you take a look at that Ram 7, it does really has about a 5% faster straight speed than a lot of the other guns in the AR category, which is what makes it excellent. And then as far as that idle sway, what I found for the short barrels is they had a little bit less as far as how much they moved around. They moved a little bit less, and on the M4, which is as weird as it sounds, it actually changed the iron sight a little bit, which you guys will be able to see on the screen. What I found for the short barrels is definitely made your idle sway a little bit better, which is a weird stat to have. So with those short barrels, you're getting a better hip fire, a better stray speed, and a better idle sway. So with the short barrels, depending on which gun you're using, like if you're using the GFUEL, you're going to get 6 positives for only 2 negatives, which is probably one of the best things about the GFUEL, is that SMG class setup you can throw on there. As far as putting those Angel barrels, the M16, the custom Corvus marksman, the Nexus, it had a little bit wider spread area of where that idle sway was moving. So it definitely made a little bit bigger of a circle, and it definitely moved a lot more to the left and right. Not that big of a factor. But if you put an attachment like the rubberized grip or something that kind of affects your aim stability, or let's say that tack laser is not going to be as effective. And if you put that Ranger foregrip on there, it's also not going to be as effective to improve your idle sway. So in my opinion, that's what is the biggest factor in deciding what is the best class setup. Let's say if you take that GFUEL, you stack that Angel barrel on there with that Ranger, you're going to get a significantly worse stray speed. Obviously, your recoil is going to be about as little as possible. But your idle sway is basically going to be not affected at all, which the Ranger claims it improves that, which you're obviously not going to notice. Your aim down sight time is going to go down by a lot. And the only real bonus you're going to get is you're going to have the best range and the best recoil. but your overall mobility is going to be significantly worse than you expected because you did not know about the idle sway and that stray speed of the angel barrels. So the biggest factor for me to note on these class setups is what stacks best together, which from every class setup moving forward, I'm going to be including these stats in there as far as that stray speed to figure out what attachments stack best together. So it definitely is a pretty unique thing, definitely something I want to see them try and update. The oil can suppressor was one of the few attachments they actually updated the attachment card to be correct. So hopefully this video is seen by an employee maybe and they update and say, hey, you know, we're lying or something, which I don't expect them to do because their patch notes never have full notes on them. But definitely a surprising video when I started testing all of this stuff out. So like I said, if you guys learned anything new, you guys want to leave a like. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel if you guys are new. Make sure you guys use code Trapgod on all of your SCUF and GFUEL purchases. And I'll talk to you guys in the next video.